So the DNC kicks off in Chicago this week, and in true commie form, they pretend to care about you while they stab you in the back with their crazy policy positions. Also, the commie of the week is one with no brains. I mean, literally, it's a no-brainer. You'll see. And we have a special in-person guest, Mr. Anthony Brown. All that and more today coming up on The Quisha King Show. All right, everyone. So this is my first in-studio guest in the new digs here at the Quisha King Show, Mr. Anthony Brown. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Long time coming.
Yes, yes. So I have to warn you guys. So we're not like arch enemies or anything like that, but he is definitely not a conservative Republican. He has supported a Republican candidate before. But Anthony, you're much more than that. Why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm what I would consider myself to be a community advocate. I've been doing community work now since 2005 when the Katrina evacuees came to Fort Benning when I was stationed there. We've had a resolution passed for redlining here in the city of Jacksonville, as well as we have the Durkeeville bill that we're currently working on right now. For those who don't know, the Durkeeville bill is a study that was allocated through the city council here in Jacksonville, Florida, to study 30 vacant lots and decide with the community's input what they want to do with those vacant lots. So we are excited for that. We also have town hall meetings in which we do an educational component, as well as talk about the importance of civic engagement here in Jacksonville, Florida, every third Thursday at 6 o'clock at Pastor Dawson's church, Pastor D's church. So we are very excited about the momentum that we have here in Jacksonville. We're not just an organization that does a lot of rhetoric and talk. We actually put boots to the ground and we try to change the narrative here in Jacksonville, Florida, as it pertains to some of these neglected communities. So whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, we welcome your help, and we try not to be categorized based on political party and political affiliation.
Well, forgive me, I might categorize him on today, but Anthony, nevertheless, I am very happy that you are here, and he's a big guy, he's a military man, he can take my criticisms, he'll be all right. Let's get into the news because it is a lot to talk about, and so I cannot wait to get this lefty over here, get his reactions to the news that's going on. So the first thing that I really want to talk about, which was just absolutely nuts and insane, was at the DNC, Planned Parenthood, they decided to show up. You know, they didn't just come to say, hey, come and, unalive your children. No, this is what they had to do. They had to have free abortions there, promoting free abortions and vasectomies. Take a look.
Well, I'm coming to you live from the DNC, and guess who else is here? Planned Parenthood. Of course they are. They're in town for the DNC, and they're giving away more than just T-shirts, more than just stickers. Listen to this. They are handing out free abortions and vasectomies. A Planned Parenthood branch out of St. Louis posting this. Here we come, Chicago. Our mobile health clinic will be in the West Loop August 19th to 20th, providing free vasectomies and medication abortion. Emergency contraception will also be available for free without an appointment.
How sick and disgusting is that? That's my opinion on it. What's yours? What do you think about that?
I would second that. I'm not a fan of abortion. I know the foundations of where it comes from.
Yeah.
It was targeted to low income and specifically black communities with Margaret Sanger and some of the capitalists who funded her plan in terms of Planned Parenthood. It is something that's an offshoot of eugenics. So the fact that the Democratic Party and some of these folks who consider themselves to be minorities continue to support these initiatives is problematic. So as a person who is pro-family, I'm very much a critic of Planned Parenthood still being in these communities. If you want to put something in a community, I would much rather you put something like grocery stores, adequate schools, et cetera, et cetera. But Planned Parenthood and what they're doing down at the DNC, I'm not necessarily a fan of it at all.
Yeah.
Even though I may be categorized as a leftist, I'm definitely not a fan of Planned Parenthood at all.
You know, well, I mean, I'm glad that we can agree on that. And I do find that, you know, Black men in particular tend to be a way more reasonable when it comes to this. You know, they try to make it seem like you don't care about your own children. Like, oh, we don't even need to ask men their opinion. How dare you speak? You're like, that's my child.
Right.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Right.
Like, of course I have an opinion. You know, it's my seed. So it's good to hear that. And I hope that can encourage other men to not feel like they have to be quiet when people are coming after your children, your progeny. Like they have no regard for who you are and your children. But I will have to say that means that the men who are placing their seeds in these, you know, this suspect ground, you know, you might want to be a little bit, if they're going down there and marching with the folks and say, yeah, I want to unalive my child. Like, yeah, that ground is sus. Don't, you know, the Bible talks about sowing seed in good ground. That's not good ground if a woman is going to go out here and say and disregard you and say, like, I don't care what you think about this a human being that's growing in my body. So it's good that we can, you know, come together on that one. But speaking of children, the Biden administration just got struck down again by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court declined the Biden administration, their request to enforce LGBTQ Title IX protections. The court's 5-4 decision was issued in an unsigned order and drew rebuke from 3 liberal judges. No shocker there, on the Supreme Court and conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch. So a conservative says, no, we should, you know, let men be in women's sports and men in women's bathrooms and all those kinds of things. I think I know where you stand on this, but let's just take a look at this this clip here.
A Biden administration expansion to federal Title IX protections will remain blocked. The U.S. Supreme Court said today the rule change will stay paused while a legal challenge led by Tennessee's Attorney General plays out. News 2's Alicia Wimberly is at the WKRN.com alert desk with more details. Alicia.
Yeah, that's right, Haley. The Supreme Court denied the Biden administration's emergency request to partially reinstate the new Title IX rule in a 5-4 decision. Title IX prohibits sex discrimination in federally funded education programs. President Biden proposed new rules expanding the law to ban discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti led a coalition of several states and sued over the change. The Title IX changes were supposed to go in effect August 1st. The decision is not a final ruling for the lawsuits challenging the new Title IX rule. The cases will now return to lower appeal courts, but the matter could eventually return right back to the Supreme Court. Haley.
All right, so that was a lot, but essentially what they are doing, what the Biden administration wants to do is to expand, you know, these terms. So if somebody just feels like they are a girl or a boy when their biological sex is a girl or a boy, then they could claim these protections that Title IX offers. Thoughts? Did you ever play sports?
I did.
Football?
I did.
Okay. How would you feel if you're in the locker room and a woman comes in there but she's got, you know, the low haircut, got her breasts all taped down, and she's like, hey, yo, what up? do you feel, would you be uncomfortable?
I would be uncomfortable, and she would be uncomfortable because that's a safe space for men. It would be no different than if I was to go into a female's locker room and females are doing, and I had on a wig and a dress, and I'll take it a step further. We just witnessed in the Olympics a boxer fighting with the women. And the woman who got hit initially in the first rounds of the boxing match said that was the hardest she had ever been hit.
That's right.
She was upset because of all the time and effort that it took for her to get to that point and get to that stage, and now to fight against a man. is problematic. My issue is there are categories for women, there are categories for men. I don't understand why we have to blur the lines. I don't understand what we're doing. If a conservative can agree with that and a liberal can agree with that, then we have to have the wider conversation. It's not necessarily based on red or blue. It's based on what is the agenda behind the scenes from a political standpoint. If both of them are going to be in agreement that we're going to allow for this to be crossed. I'll take it a step further.
Okay.
Growing up, I watched a certain coach at UConn, man.
Wait, you went to UConn?
I didn't go to UConn, but I watched the UConn Huskies be coached by a male,
from Connecticut.
a male coach, right? So this is not going to be popular for me to say, but I'm going to go ahead and do it since I'm already flowing. I don't think men should coach women, period. I think women should coach women.
Okay.
I think men should coach men. Why do I say that? If I was to go into the locker room, again, it's a sacred place for somebody who's been there, so I can speak to it.
Yeah.
There are certain things that go on in the locker room that I don't think a man should be privy to, and vice versa.
Great point.
The other issue that I have, if we're all for women's empowerment, you give women more of an opportunity to coach and participate with women versus these men being in that space. So it's almost hypocritical, in my opinion, that you're going to talk about women empowerment, but you have men coaching women.
Yeah.
So even before we got to this point, I always thought that it was weird that you had men that were in female spaces and vice versa. So it's a bigger argument to be had, and I think that you should keep women with women and men with men, and you wouldn't have all these issues.
Oh, the feminists are gonna come for you, Anthony. They ain't gonna like that because they don't even think that men should, you shouldn't have a voice at all. Your bout can't even exist, according to these feminists. They say back in the day, Gloria Steinem said, we need men like a fish needs a bicycle. So I mean,
to let them tell it. Black men should shut up, get on board with the Democratic blue machine,
That's right.
and just roll with Kamala. No, this is a new day.
Well, we're going to be talking about Kamala in a minute because that whole thing was just absolutely crazy. What do you think about this coup that just happened with Kamala? The people voted for Biden, and they was like, we're going to curb him. So they curbed Biden.
Right. They did
kicked him out. I mean, they did him so low down and dirty, acting like they were so surprised at how completely brain dead basically he was, with this debate that Trump did that I still to this day do not believe that Trump should have did it. It was a setup. And then Kamala just steps in and they acting like she's just, the next Barack Obama. What do you think about
I think there's two conversations. One, it speaks to the incompetence of the Democratic Party to roll that old guy out there, knowing that when he first initially got elected, he was old.
Yeah.
You didn't think he was going to age if he didn't pass away, but you didn't think he was going to age 4 years later. And then to push him out like that and insert her without going through a democratic electoral process to vote, you're just going to make her the nominee, was problematic too. Nobody else spoke up. Nobody else said anything about it. It was suspect because the Obamas took a couple of days in order to give their public endorsement for it.
Yeah.
So I hope it works out for him. I am not a fan of Kamala. I am not a fan of how she did black men. I'm not a fan of how she did the black community and cosplays when it's convenient to be so.
So you don't think she's black for real? Would you consider her black?
Kamala's mother is Indian.
Right.
Her dad is from Jamaica, but that's his nationality.
Okay.
We found out later that it would be no different than Charlize Theron, the actress from South Africa. Her nationality is South African, but she is white. Her father is Irish and Indian, and to add insult to injury, his ancestors were slave owners too.
Yeah.
So not only is she not black, but at the end of the day, she's still associated with people, man, who have been harmful to the black community too.
Yeah.
The irony in that.
Kamala is a whole fraud and phony. Like, I just cannot. First of all, y'all know, me and Democrats, like, we will never see eye to eye. I was on the Shade Room last week, I think, and we were talking about Kamala and this whole thing, and this idea that she just can do no wrong now, and just the way that the Democrat Party, her people, just are coalescing around her, like she is just, y'all couldn't stand that woman 2 days ago. This is why I say the Democrat Party is a cult, because you literally could not stand her 2 days ago. But the moment that the party said, oh no, y'all better get in line or we will get you in line, dun, 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 y'all started marching. You started marching and tooting your horns and pulling up and
real quick about Kamala. We're yet to see what her policies are going to be. Now, for me personally, I don't care if you're black or white, but since we're going there, and that's her narrative right now, my question would be, she said in an interview when she was running for president that she wasn't going to do anything specifically for black people.
That's right.
But now black folks are on the train riding with a person who is anti-black in terms of her policy and her legislation.
Yeah.
What I want to ask black folks specifically is, we are grown now. This is no longer 1980. We don't do identity politics. The question that I have for Black America is, if you want something for your community, you don't necessarily have to vote for somebody because they're cosplaying and because they are in a space in which they are exploiting black people in order to get black votes. When you go to her website, there's nothing on her website. She has yet to do an interview. She has yet to step out in front of the people.
With Tim Walz. That was her interview.
Anyway, she is yet to do an official interview. And so if you want my vote, you're not going to get my vote. But if you were serious, you would have to say something that's specific to the demographics of people that I represent. And up to this point, you have not done so. Yeah. So I'm not a fan of Kamala. And since I'm on the Kamala train, at least Obama, if she wants to.
Oh, there's so many jokes there, but we won't.
At least you're wrong for that. At least Obama had a black wife with black children, and the symbolism of that was, at least it was more digestible if you want to try to manipulate black folks. She don't even have that at her disposal.
That's a good point.
She's black, supposedly, with the Jewish white guy. So even the symbolism of you voting for Kamala is not going to do anything for you. So I don't have nothing for you.
Well, y'all know I don't really do the whole black thing. I don't need a politician to do anything for me because I'm black, because I don't see myself as different because I happen to be black. I want the same things that other people want. I don't see myself as different as being black, but I hear what you're saying. We got to stay on Kamala for one more thing, because she did put out this piece of policy that she wanted to make a part of her platform. So this is, let's take a listen to this. I believe it's SOP 4.
I read your piece and I heard you just mention it. The federal ban on price gouging for groceries. You are skeptical of this. Why?
Well, first of all, nobody can explain what price gouging means. It's like that old line about fee. I know it when I see it, in the sense that what does it mean to have an excessive price or an excessive profit margin? That seems to be shorthand for a price or a profit margin that bugs me. That seems too high. So, it's very hard to pin down what this would actually mean. If you look at the legislation that, as I mentioned, is already in the Senate, led by Senate Warren and Senator Bob Casey and a slew of others, the particular way that this is written, which is likely to be the template for any proposal that Harris would eventually embrace, is especially bad in that it just bans excessive prices, grossly excessive profit margins, and says that the Federal Trade Commission can use any metric it deems appropriate to decide what that would mean, which basically says, like, it's not going to be markets, it's not going to be supply and demand that's determining how much your grocery store charges you for milk or for eggs. It's going to be some bureaucrat in DC, which seems like totally unworkable, first of all, for the FTC to be deciding like how much Kroger charges for eggs in Michigan. But it also would be very bad for markets. We've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before: Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, et cetera. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets, plenty of uncertainty. And beyond that, the specific way this bill is written might actually increase prices because of some of the other language in it. Things like requiring public companies to disclose in their quarterly reports, their quarterly earnings reports, how they're setting prices, which is a great way to help them collude, which normally we don't want them to do. So anyway, the devil's in the details, I guess, for that bill, but it's really hard for me to imagine any form of legislation that preserves the spirit of what she's proposing that would not be, at best do nothing, at worst cause a lot.
All right, so that's the piece of policy that she has put out. So this is Kamala's plan. She wants to set prices. That's the plan. She wants to tell business owners, particularly, let's just keep it at grocery stores, what to charge for their goods. And you can't possibly do that for all of America. I mean, it's just impossible. But what do you think?
I don't particularly understand what she's trying to do with this bill. It doesn't have a lot of meat in it. And for a lot of people who are concerned about gas, concerned about these high rent prices, concerned about mortgage, concerned about the fact that these millennials and their children cannot afford to purchase a home right now, I think that needs to move to the top of the priority list.
So basically what it is, she's saying that these grocery stores, because people are complaining about grocery store prices also.
Okay.
So she's saying in order to fix that problem of the high cost of food now, she wants to set the price. Let's just say eggs. So eggs can only cost $4. So she would put a mandate, a law for grocery stores across the country to only charge $4 for eggs. Now, she's not taking into consideration that they have to buy. What if the cost that they get the eggs for is $4? But the government saying you can only charge $4. There's no margin in that for the grocery store to make any money. Because you can't tell a business what to charge because you don't know what their costs are. And this farmer might charge, $5. Another farmer might charge $3, whatever. But so she wants the government to come in and say, you can only charge this amount, regardless of what that business grocery store has to get the cost of the good. So you do have black markets. You do create a system where you cannot function. The businesses will go out of business because you're telling them what they have to charge. And in most cases, you couldn't possibly know those things. And the business can't make money.
Here's the question that I have. Why would you use that to start out your quote unquote economic plan? 2, why wouldn't you do anything to increase the income and the money that the people are making if you're going to quote unquote regulate the prices, what's going on? And 3, again, what about that specific piece of legislation? What about that? I don't understand why she felt like that had to be the first thing that she rolled out.
Because people are talking about the economy. She knows that is top of mind. And her and Biden are responsible for this. And so Kamala's not a smart person. I'm sorry. She's not a smart person. She does not know economics. This is like economics 101, okay? Like you cannot set prices for businesses because you don't know what it costs for them to sell that product, to get the goods into you know what I'm saying?
To your point, why wouldn't you have had an economist on there? Or why wouldn't you had somebody who you could have leaned into them and they would have been a subject matter expert?
This is what they think about their voters. They're like, they don't care.
I want to hear Kamala talk about.
She's a woman.
Right.
She's not doing any press. She's not giving the people any details. And guess what? They're not asking her. When I was on the Shade Room, I was like, she's literally not telling you why she's running or what she's planning on doing, and they're like, I'm voting for her anyway.
Now here's the pushback. Some
Okay.
people may say, we have yet to hear what Donald Trump is going to do. Insults don't count. Policies do.
He has a whole list of policies on his website, and Trump has been, now y'all know I didn't support Trump in the primary. My first pick was DeSantis. But I do know, watch, I do know what Trump's policies are. I mean,
What are Trump's policies?
he wants to start drilling again in America for oil. That right there would start to get the economy going in a better direction. So many things come from oil, and with oil being...
What about these illegal immigrants? What about these migrants? Does he have a plan for that?
And the border, building the wall, yes, and deporting these illegals up out of here. Okay? Yes, I said it. Get them up out of here.
Now, to your point, Kamala, who was supposed to do something about the border when she was Madam Vice President, didn't do anything.
Currently Vice President.
I would make the argument that people are voting for policies that are going to be the start of their own demise. If you're going to vote for what the Democrats got going on, they're bringing in some of these folks, giving them money, paying for rent, sending them to school for free, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, in places like Chicago, ironically enough, where the DNC is being held this week, you got a lot of black folks, man, who have been in these communities, man, for decades, who have yet to receive any subsidies from the same party they're supporting.
But this is a problem with, and I will say with black Americans who blindly vote for Democrats because they're not reading. They're not going to look and say, oh, what exactly are they doing? The Democrats have put out so much propaganda. Just by you being a Republican, you automatically lose credibility. They don't examine your reasonings for, why you're supporting this candidate or why you believe X, Y thing. They just know Republican bad. It's so like cavemanish. Republican bad.
Right.
It's
that's
like,
the narrative.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But Democrat politicians know that. So they are, it's insulting.
I will say this. I'm not emotionally invested in the red team or the blue team. I will say this for the Republican Party. If there was ever a time where they should be smelling blood in the water, particularly with black males in the Democratic Party, is now. My criticism for them sometimes is they do not go to some of these areas that maybe the Democrats have gone to, or maybe they feel like they won't get a vote. I'm here to tell you right now that if you're a Republican, here is your opportunity to visit some of these areas. I guarantee you people are more open now than they've been in the last 30 or 40 years. So this narrative about us being all in with the Democrats, now the numbers would indicate that is true, but there is an opening right there that if the Republicans want to take advantage of it, now's the time to take advantage of it.
True, but do you think that they would be receptive? Do you think that Republicans going in would be, would black Americans be receptive?
I think some would now.
You think some would? Okay.
I do, particularly with the younger generation that we have going on now. They're more open-minded, and they're not necessarily brainwashed to vote blue no matter who.
Right.
So I do think now, to my earlier point, this is an opportunity for them to come. You're not going to know if you don't give it an opportunity.
That's true. True indeed. All right, you guys, I want to talk about our sponsor for the day. It is God's Stuff. If you are tired of battling acne, blemished skin, and dark spots, then you need to try Gold Lush. Gold Lush is the all-natural, American-made makeup remover and facial oil cleanser that makes your skin feel alive. Gold Lush melts away acne effortlessly while leaving your skin smooth, clean, and hydrated. It's like a spa day in a bottle. And it's God's Stuff. Why? Because it's the best stuff. So treat your skin and glow. Get your Gold Lush today. Visit godsstuffbeauty.com. That is godsstuffbeauty.com. Why not support businesses that share your values instead of giving your money away to people like Ulta who think men can be women? That's not the way we want to go. So go ahead and get you some Gold Lush today. And speaking of Sweetamine, let's talk with the founder of Sweetamine. Welcome, Mr. Joel.
Hi.
Hey, Joel, how are you?
Very good, very good.
So we've got here Sweetamine, and it is all natural, anti-inflammatory sweetener, sugar-free, gluten-free, vegan-friendly, and you just pop one of these in your coffee, your tea, your cocoa. What else can we put this in?
You can sprinkle it on oatmeal. You can put it in a shake or a smoothie. You can do whatever you like with it. It's supposed to have about the sweetness of 2 teaspoons of sugar. It's not that sweet. If you don't like things sweet, things like fruit juice, especially something like lemon juice or iced tea, it doesn't add that much sweetness. So even people who don't like things very sweet, you can have it without adding much taste to it at all if you add it to fruit juice. Nice. But I add it to my coffee, and I never ever liked coffee sweet.
Very nice. I'm a coffee drinker myself, so.
I got used to it.
Okay, I'm a coffee drinker myself, so I definitely want to start putting this in my coffee. But how did you come up with this? Like, what made you want to create this?
Oh, well, I'm a biochemist and a biology professor, endocrinology professor. I've been doing bench science for decades, and I taught endocrinology and biology, largely biology, to non-science majors at the City University of New York for 34 years. And when I was a kid, I decided I wanted to do this when I was 10. So that's, back in the Stone Age. So I actually engraved on one of these, rocks. I actually did a cave painting and promised myself I would become a biochemist and someday cure cancer and heart disease and all the rest of it. Well, I ended up being the dog who caught the car, if you will. This embodies actually the secret to really most of what makes people sick and die these days. If you check the literature, if you check what the medical science industry, if you will, believes now is behind all of these chronic illnesses, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, they say it's chronic inflammation. And they're right, but they don't understand inflammation, and that's why they can't get any further. And they wonder why people have chronic inflammation. They don't know because they don't understand inflammation. Inflammation, they say, is a natural response to illness or injury. It's the body's first response to illness or injury. That is a perfect half-truth. It's a natural response to illness, not injury. Because yes, but it happens whenever you get injured. You sprain your ankle, it gets swollen and inflamed. You bump your head, you get a big bump, it gets inflamed and swollen. You get a sunburn, it gets all inflamed. You can't do anything without excruciating pain for a couple of days. All of these things are true, but that's only because most people are glycine deficient. I started on this because I was working with a research team on amino acid metabolism. Okay. And we were working on a different amino acid. We were working on the amino acid methionine. Methionine is an essential amino acid, which they taught us all about in college and graduate school, and how important it was, and how your liver was recycling and regenerating and reusing methionine. But in fact, it is essential, and because it's so essential, your body needs very little of it. Okay. And the methionine-rich food, right? The proteins are made of about 20 different Lego blocks called amino acids, and one of them is methionine. There's 8 of them that are considered essential, and the others are considered non-essential. Now, glycine, which comprises most of what's in Sweetamine, it is really a glycine supplement. That actually is considered non-essential because your body can make it from simpler ingredients. But that doesn't mean it makes enough. So it's very unfortunate that it's considered non-essential, but you see the word non-essential is toxic. Didn't we all find that out during COVID? Oh, your job is non-essential.
That's right, very true.
So it's the word that's toxic. That's why who wants to study a nutrient that's considered non-essential? Non-essential. Well, actually it is essential, not for making protein, which it does comprise part of protein, but because it has a different function that's needed in a very high concentration to stabilize your immune system, among other things. So the cells that cause inflammation, those immune cells that cause inflammation, they're called macrophages. Yes, they're the first responders. Yes, they come around whenever there's injury or an infection, and the first thing they do is they clean up the mess. But then inflammation is actually where they start secreting poisons to try and kill something that got into you before it kills you.
Oh, goodness.
Well, if there's a blunt injury, there wasn't any infection. So what are you trying to kill? So these macrophages are inappropriately activated, or even when there is an infection, they tend to be excessively activated, and they start doing damage to normal tissue. So it is not really a normal response. It really is an indication of a nutritional deficiency that most people have. So a good analogy for this would be like the first responders in our society. So if there's an accident on the highway, who shows up? The cops show up. And they, they have they're in the, yeah, well, they call them, right? The cops show up, they call the fire department, they call the tow trucks, they call the ambulances, they take the accident reports, they redirect traffic until the mess gets cleaned up, and when the mess is cleared up, they go back to their base. Now, the funny thing is, these guys are armed, right? They got loaded guns in their holsters, and they can draw them in less than a second and start shooting up the place, but they would never do that unless there are bad actors present. Well, the same thing's true with these immune cells called macrophages. They are not supposed to be activated to cause inflammation unless there are some bugs to kill. And the trigger lock, the thing that regulates inflammation so that it doesn't happen except when it needs to, is the amino acid glycine. It actually is like a trigger lock on actually an electrical switch on the surface of the cell. That turns it on and called into the what's called the M1 mode, where it's actually now doing damage. So imagine, you wouldn't think that going out on the highway whenever there's an accident, the cops would come and start shooting the place up. But
we hope
inside,
not.
What's that?
We would hope not, right? Yes.
We would.
That would not be good.
But inside almost everybody's body, that's what's going on. Whenever there is any kind of injury, a micro injury, a macro injury, you get inflammation, and it's not natural. And this is what, even in ways where it's not perceptible until it's done an awful lot of damage and actually caused the cancer to arise, it happens. So, for example, there are normal physiological things that cause injuries. Even just an ordinary exercise and doing stuff with your body, just flexing your joints and jumping around or whatever you do, there are going to be micro injuries that happen. Just normal circulation of blood, there are going to be little injuries. Just for example, in women, in the menstrual cycle, during the cycle, the hormones rise and fall, right? So that hormone rise and fall causes a burst of cell division in, for example, the breasts. So the breasts actually grow a little bit in the third week of the cycle,
right,
and
true.
A lot of women experience discomfort from that.
Right.
And then what happens? It regresses, which means all of those extra cells that were starting to get made in order to take care of the possibility of a baby to feed 9 months down the line with the breasts, those cells have to die now. So they die off, and it's perfectly natural. They grow, and then they die off. They grow, and they die off. But if you're glycine deficient, every month, every time those cells die off, there is a low-grade inflammation that happens. And we wonder what causes breast cancer. This is really at the heart of it, as inflammation. Same thing is true with, for example, ovarian cancer. Going back to a woman's cycles, what happens every month from one ovary or the other alternating is a mature egg is released. Well, it's not just passively released. It's like shot out of a cannon. This is what ovulation is, and some women experience that. You're not supposed to feel it really, but whether you feel it or not, it does damage to the ovary. So if that damage just heals, well, that's normal physiology, happens every month. But if you have a glycine deficiency, guess what? The incidence of ovarian cancer has been known for decades now to be directly proportional to how many times in a woman's life she has ovulated. That's why having children and breastfeeding them lowers the risk of ovarian cancer. That's why birth control pills lower the risk of ovarian cancer, even as they raise the risk of breast cancer. Because you can see how these events, by manipulating the events which in the face of glycine deficiency cause inflammation, it affects the incidence of these serious diseases. So there are all kinds of things, these days diabetes is all the rage. That's all just from inflammation.
Yeah.
People say now, they say, oh, diabetes, that's from abdominal obesity. Sure. And if you lose the weight, if you lose that extra 20, 30 pounds, diabetes will go away. But it's not the fat. It's the immune cells embedded in the fat. And if you take glycine supplements, the diabetes will go away without losing any weight. This is actually
incredible.
So I'm not making any drug claims, but I should shut up now because I've just been. I love to talk about this stuff. Obviously.
The benefits are endless. I mean, this is pretty incredible. Just one pack. You just put one of these.
One stick pack a day, yeah.
Yeah, on your food, your oatmeal, or in a drink, and you can help to prevent all of these things that you just laid out here. And so,
but we don't. But I can't say. I have to say with a disclaimer on the box and say that it's not designed to prevent, diagnose, treat, or cure any disease.
Of course.
It merely corrects a deficiency. My view is that all of these things will come to be known sooner, hopefully, rather than later, as what they are, deficiency diseases.
Yeah.
Nobody dies of scurvy anymore. Nobody dies of pellagra anymore. Nobody dies of rickets anymore. These are known to be deficiency diseases, and really all of these are pretty much in that category, I believe.
Right. So tell us where we can get this and all the specials that you have going on.
Okay, so we have sweetamine.com, and you can spell it, I guess.
Yes, so it's SWEETAMINE. That's
right.
Sweetamine.com, and you can go and put in a special code KING, K-I-N-G. That's my last name.
Okay. Right. Okay.
To get a discount there.
Right. The discount, the way it works is usually people buy a box of 30 a month's supply. Comes in those boxes that you have there sitting right in front of you. But what we do also sell is a 12-day rather than a 30-day, a 12-day challenge, which has 12 packets in it. Now, 12 packets is enough to really test it out usually. If inflammation is bothering you in any way, like, usually joint pain, muscle pain, all this kind of inflammation-related pain, you will feel it getting better within 2 or 3 days usually.
Okay.
And so typically what happens is someone tries it. They try it one day. They try it 2 days. Hey, maybe it's working a little. They try it another couple of days. Hey, yeah, I am feeling better. Maybe it's not the Sweetamine. I don't know. Then you stop taking it for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Pain comes back. You go, so this
so
is.
the 12 days really does give you a good assessment of how it's working for you.
Right, and it's completely risk-free because if you don't like it, you just email us or call us or whatever and say, yeah, we don't like it, we want our money back. Okay.
Yeah.
And we give you your money back. Now, how much is that money? Well, if they use the promo code KING when they order it from watching this show, they will get $5 off. You get $5 off your first purchase, no matter what you're going to purchase. So the usual $19.95 is only $14.95, and it's completely refundable if you don't like it for any reason. So
there you go. Well, great to have you on and explain all this to the American people. And guys, why not support a company whose values are aligned with yours, and you're helping yourself. You're actually helping yourself live longer and have a fuller life. And like he said, this is not making any claims here, but give it a try. Go to sweetamine.com, enter promo code KING for your $5 discount, and it's risk-free. If you don't like it, you will get your money back. Joel, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a phenomenal lesson here. I feel like I just all the things that they didn't teach me in health class. So thank you so much.
They don't know it. And that's the key thing here. They don't teach it because they don't know it. Yeah. They have overlooked this non-essential little nutrient, and you know, it's off to the races with all kinds of expensive medications, which are also harmful because they are targeted to disable the immune system in ways that cause inflammation. That means when you really have to use inflammation to fight off a disease.
Yes.
That's why they tell you. Ever notice the disclaimer at the end of these things? Don't go where there's ever been, you know, any fungal infections. Don't go if you've had tuberculosis. Don't take, you know. That's because these medicines disable part. This doesn't do that. One last thing. It's an anti-inflammatory sweetener. It does not fight inflammation. It just stops it. It just turns it off at the main switch.
Well, turning it off, that is really important to know. So thank you so much again, Joel, for coming on and explaining this. We loved having you. And everyone go to sweetamine.com again to get your $5 off when you enter promo code KING, K-I-N-G. We will see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks again.
All right, so let's see. We're going to skip to the commie of the week. I do want to say that there were Hamas protesters that showed up at the DNC. They were completely unhinged, as we knew that they would be, coming in by the hundreds of thousands. So just briefly, we're not going to play the clip there, but just briefly, what do you think about the protesters?
I think the DNC is a good place for them to come and protest. I'm not necessarily all in with what's going on over there in the Middle East. I am reminded that, you know, in 1968, there were a lot of different protests that were going on. So, you know, it's kind of like we've circled back around, historically speaking. But it's curious because, you know, here locally in Jacksonville, I go to City Hall a lot, and you have a lot of the same protesters. So, you know, time will tell. We'll see exactly what happens with it. But
do you think that there needs to be a ceasefire with that? I mean, that's what they say they want. They want a ceasefire, but they do have American Hamas. They do have American hostages and American. You know, they've killed Americans. So, what do you think? And Israel, you know, is a ally. Yeah. Just jury's still out.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Y'all know where I stand. I'm like, you know, Hamas and these Palestinians, this whole thing with the left coming in with this, they're only doing it because they see Jewish people as being lighter skinned. So they don't understand that there are multiple melanin levels.
Everybody
of Jewish
practices
people.
Judaism. Right. There are multiple different people who practice Judaism.
Correct. And so they're like, they're colonists. It's more, to them, it is more white supremacy. They have no idea and don't understand that these same people have no problem blowing them up too. All right, moving on. We're going to talk about Commie of the Week. And no better person to get the award of Commie of the Week than our very own Kamala Harris, because
be on that girl, man.
Well, she just rolled out this crazy price gouging, government setting thing, which is communist. She's like literal communist. All right, this is our last clip.
Insurance companies.
The bottom line and the most important is that everyone have access to health care. That is the goal.
I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. Everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place.
This will be
work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
So Kamala Harris gets Commie of the Week because of the price gouging. She has totally gone full communist. They tried this. The government setting prices in Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union. I believe even back in like the Roman days or the Grecian days. Like this has been tried since time immemorial, failed since time immemorial. But here comes Kamala Harris, dun, 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 communist to the rescue. You cannot set prices, okay? When a government entity tries to set the price, they will put that company out of business. And if you don't believe in setting prices, then you might want to ask those slave owners, because they were not able to charge for their labor because the government set a price. And you know what that price was? A big fat zero. So you don't want the government coming in and saying, we're going to charge, you can only charge this amount for your labor, you can only charge this amount for your products, you can only charge this. You don't want the government coming in and doing that, because it removes your ability as a business owner, as a person who is selling your labor to a company saying, I will work for X amount of dollars. The government will either come in and say, no, you cannot do that. And you give your power away to the government. And once you do that, just look at history, you never get that power back. Go ask the people of Venezuela who are going through this right now.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Right. Let's just talk about policy, since she's rolled this policy out, and clearly you're not a fan of it. With all of the momentum that the Harris and Waltz ticket has right now, moving forward, are they going to need to roll out any more policy in order for them to sustain this momentum? Or is the optics of something different, as opposed to Biden being at the top of the ticket, going to be enough for them as we go into November? What's your thoughts on that?
So I think that it's largely, it depends on the media. If the media tells the truth, the people will be informed. And Kamala, she wouldn't have even had this honeymoon phase, as they're calling it. She wouldn't have even had it. I don't know how strong people are actually rolling with her, because some of the polls are saying that they're oversampling Democrats, or not really sampling enough Republicans. So I don't even feel like we really know what the energy is. I don't think, my senses say, my spidey senses say, people really aren't feeling Kamala like that. So time will tell, but I don't think for most Democrat voters, which is not, Republicans, we're focused on the independents. We're focused on people that we can actually have an impact with. But the Democrat voters, it don't matter. The cult leaders told y'all who to vote for, and then y'all went marching off to the races. And like I say, they will, if you don't get in line, they will get you in line, just like they did with Joe Biden and rolled his old behind right on off the stage. He spoke at 11 o'clock last night and then took his behind home. The current Democrat president. That is just how much lack of respect that they have for their own party, because it's all about power with these people. But on that note, you guys, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Thank you, Anthony, for coming on and being a wonderful
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. And like I always say,
real quick.
Okay.
For those who want to be involved in the community, we are the organization for you. We actually put feet to the pavement. Like I said, our town hall meetings are every third Thursday, 1405 State Street West at 6 o'clock. Our next meeting will be September the 19th. We look forward to having each and every one come out and participate. Again, thank you for having me on, and I look forward to seeing you out there September the 19th.
And that's for if you are in Jacksonville, Florida, because we do have our
I got you.
show here. So if you are in Jacksonville and you are interested, please check that out. Any social media handles that you want to share with the people?
No, but I will make sure to give you my number, old school style. For those who want to reach out to me, my number is 706-289-0700. My email address is TB, that's Tango Bravo, 7787 @yahoo.com. Again, thank you.
All right, you guys, we will see you next time. And as I say, whom the sun sets free is free indeed. So get free. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.